In 24 hours, Sydney was hit by two disasters moving in opposite directions. The first came from the sky, the second came from underneath the road. On Thursday, February 26th, severe thunderstorms buried the Sydney Basin in rain. Flash flooding shut down the city's arterial network within minutes. Thousands of commuters stranded on Anzac Bridge. Parramatta Road, 23 kilometers of the most heavily trafficked corridor in the country, closed in both directions. A dozen homes evacuated in western Sydney as water pushed into properties faster than anyone could sandbag. The NSW State Emergency Service launched rescues across multiple local government areas. Dean Story, SES Assistant Commissioner, went on the record, flash flooding can occur quickly, without much warning. By Friday morning, the rain had stopped. The city was drying out. Official tone, recovery underway. Then the ground beneath College Street collapsed. A sinkhole. 50 meters from St. Mary's Cathedral. A delivery truck dropped through the road surface. A school sent every child home. And Sydney Water shut off supply to an entire CBD block to stop the hole from spreading. But here is the detail that tells the real story. St. Mary's Cathedral sits at the eastern edge of Sydney's CBD on the corner of College Street and Cathedral Street. It is the oldest Catholic cathedral site in Australia. The foundation stone was laid in 1868. The building took 60 years to complete. Sandstone walls cut from the same Hawkesbury geology the city is built on. It has stood through 2 world wars, the 1989 Newcastle earthquake, the 2022 flood emergency, and every system the Tasman Sea has thrown at this coastline for more than a century. It is heritage listed. It is the most visited church in Australia. It is, by every measure, permanent. On Friday, February 27th, the street beside it was not. It's at the intersection of College Street and Prince Albert Road. Less than 50 meters from the cathedral's southern wall, the road surface collapsed. A water main beneath the intersection had burst. The pressurized flow had been eroding the ground from below while the surface above looked normal. When a Coles delivery truck crossed that section on a routine morning run, the front wheels dropped through. The driver was still in the cab. St. Mary's Cathedral has survived 156 years. The pipe beneath the road beside it did not survive one storm. To understand how Sydney arrived here, you have to watch the timeline accelerate. At 12:46 p.m. on Thursday, February 26th, the Bureau of Meteorology issued a severe thunderstorm warning for the Greater Sydney region. Heavy rainfall, dangerous flash flooding. Within the hour, the sky over the inner west went black. Rain hit the CBD in sheets thick enough to erase visibility across intersections. Storm drains overwhelmed within minutes, water pooling faster than the network could move it. By mid-afternoon, Anzac Bridge was gridlocked, one of the primary arterial links between the inner west and the city center, paralyzed. Parramatta Road closed in sections, commuters trapped in vehicles as water rose around them. The SES fielded calls from across multiple local government areas simultaneously. In western Sydney, the flooding reached homes. Water entered properties from overland flow paths that had not activated in years. A dozen houses evacuated, backyards submerged. Story urged the public not to drive through floodwater. Some already had, some were sitting in it. By Thursday evening, the worst of the rain had passed. Transport routes began reopening. The SES stood down overnight operations. The framing from officials was clean. Severe weather event. Flash flooding. Disruption managed. Recovery underway. Sydney had taken a hit and Sydney was drying out. Except beneath College Street, in the dark, something else was happening. A pressurized water main was failing. The flow was moving through saturated fill material, washing out the ground beneath the road surface from below. No alarm, no sensor, no indication on the street above. The road looked solid. It was not. And nobody on the surface knew. And then it got worse. Not from the sky, from underneath. Sydney's CBD sits on Hawkesbury sandstone, stable rock, the same geological layer that gives the city its harbour cliffs and its golden building stone. But between that sandstone and the road surface sits a network of utility infrastructure that in some sections of the CBD dates back more than a century. Water mains, stormwater channels, sewer lines, gas conduits, telecommunications ducts, all buried beneath streets that were designed for horse-drawn traffic and now carry multi-axle delivery trucks, buses, and tens of thousands of vehicles per day. When a pressurized water main bursts underground, the escaping flow does not pool. It moves. It finds the path of least resistance through fill material, sand layers, fractured rock. It washes out the substrate that holds the road surface from below. The road above looks normal, feels solid, carries weight, until it does not. There is no warning crack, no gradual sag. The surface holds, and then a truck drives over it and drops through. Here is the problem that is not making headlines. Sydney Water manages approximately 21,500 kilometers of water mains across the Greater Sydney network. Pipe bursts are not rare. Sydney Water responds to thousands of main breaks per year. The vast majority are repaired without incident. A crew arrives, isolates a section, patches or replaces the segment, repaves. Routine. But when a burst occurs during or immediately after a severe rainfall event, the ground is already saturated. The fill material around the pipe is already waterlogged. The subsurface has already lost cohesion. The burst does not just leak, it excavates. It turns a manageable pipe failure into a structural collapse of the road above. Thursday's storm did not cause the sinkhole. Thursday's storm created the conditions in which a single pipe failure could open a hole in the middle of Australia's largest city. The rain was the primer. The burst was the trigger. And the aging pipe beneath that intersection was the loaded chamber that had been sitting there for decades, under pressure, under traffic, under a city that builds upward and forgets what is underneath. The sky cleared on Friday morning. The ground had already made its decision. On Friday morning, College Street was operating normally, traffic moving, pedestrians crossing toward Hyde Park. The rain from the day before had cleared. The sky was open. Sydney looked like it had moved on. The Coles delivery driver was making a routine morning run. His truck approached the intersection of College Street and Prince Albert Road from the north, carrying refrigerated stock for a scheduled drop. When his front wheels crossed the section of road above the failed main, the surface gave way beneath him. The truck lurched forward. The front axle dropped into the cavity. The rear wheel stayed on intact road, leaving the vehicle tilted at an angle with the cab pitched downward into the hole. He was not injured, but he could not move the truck, and the road around him was no longer solid. Within minutes, the scene escalated. Sydney water crews arrived and shut off supply to the surrounding area to stop the subsurface erosion from widening. That decision was necessary. It also meant every building within the isolation zone lost water. Offices, restaurants, retail, no taps, no toilets, no fire suppression systems operating at full capacity in the middle of the CBD on a business day. St. Mary's Cathedral College made the call before mid-morning. The Catholic boys' school sits directly adjacent to the Sinkhole site on the cathedral grounds. Parents were contacted and asked to collect their children immediately. When staff and students left not because the building was damaged, but because the ground beside it could no longer be trusted and the school had no running water. One parent who arrived described the scene as surreal. A delivery truck half swallowed by the street. Orange barriers going up in every direction. Water crews in high visibility vests cutting into the asphalt with the cathedral standing behind all of it, untouched. Across College Street, businesses lost the day before it started. No water meant no kitchens, no bathrooms, no capacity to stay open. One cafe owner watched the sinkhole widen from behind the glass and realized there was nothing to do but lock the door and leave. A commuter who had spent Thursday evening stuck on Anzac Bridge in floodwater walked past the cordoned intersection on Friday morning and stopped. 2 days, 2 disasters, same storm, different direction. The flooding on Thursday stranded thousands. The sinkhole on Friday shut down the spiritual and administrative heart of the city. One hit from above, one from below, both traceable to the same afternoon of rain. As of Friday evening, the sinkhole at College Street and Prince Albert Road remains cordoned. Sydney water crews are on site. The burst main has been isolated. Repairs are underway. Road closures and diversions are in effect around the intersection. The flash flooding from Thursday has largely receded. The SES has scaled back operations. Transport corridors are reopening. No casualties, no structural collapse of any building, no fatalities from the flooding or the sinkhole. The official framing is reassuring. A severe weather event followed by an infrastructure incident. Both managed, both under control. Except a truck fell through a road in the middle of Sydney's CBD. 50 meters from a cathedral that has stood since 1868. A school sent every child home because the ground beside it opened up, and the pipe that failed was not struck by lightning, not hit by a vehicle, not damaged by construction. It was a water main, buried under a road, under pressure, surrounded by ground that a single afternoon of rain had already destabilized. It did what aging pipes under saturated ground do. It broke. And no one on the surface had any warning until the road was already gone. How do you tell the parents of St. Mary's Cathedral College, who sent their children to school on a clear Friday morning, that the ground beside the campus had been quietly eroding since the night before? How do you explain to the thousands of commuters stranded on Anzac Bridge on Thursday that the same storm that trapped them in traffic was simultaneously loading the conditions for a street collapse the following morning? And if one afternoon of rain and one pipe failure can open a hole in the middle of Australia's largest city, next to its oldest cathedral, with no warning, how many intersections across the CBD are sitting on the same infrastructure, under the same pressure, waiting for the next storm? St. Mary's Cathedral held. It has held for 156 years. The pipe beneath the street beside it held until Thursday. The road held until Friday. And the next forecast is already loaded.